Howdy. I hope you're here to hear about broadband. Here to hear about broadband, because this is Connect This. We've got a fun team we've put together today to talk about topical broadband issues, and we're going to start with Kim McKinley, the something of Utopia. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's like the first time I've ever been here.
Yes, and going for your three-peat next week, so we're looking forward to that. We got Peggy Schaffer, who's been on before and is still the something or other of Maine.
I am the queen of Maine.
Wonderful.
Queen of broadband in Maine.
And we have Travis Carter, the regular co-host, the man Frinsingen of USI Fiber.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for the chicken wings, by the way, Chris.
Oh yeah,
they were exceptionally tasty this time. I don't know what changed. So
you didn't eat one of them. I ate them all. I kept badgering you, and you just focused on your 3-meat plate or whatever it was.
Yeah. But you paying the bill was satisfying enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, you're right. We did have really good wings. I did pay that bill, and then we got another thing. We got.
I don't even remember our date. Come on. When you ask somebody out, they want to feel special at the end.
Well, see, the thing is, we've gone on so many dates, I've gotten them confused. And I'm Christopher Mitchell. The titles are too complicated for me, guy at ILSR, the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. And we're talking about a number of topics. I felt like we had to start with an odd place, though, because Peggy keeps coming at me with this. And that's that I've found that intermittent fasting really gives you more time at night where you can think about how hungry you are. So that's an interesting development that I did not expect.
Yeah, I don't get the purpose of intermittent fasting. I really, like I said, skipping snacks between meals is, that's to me is intermittent fasting. And you can just, except for the occasional pieces of fruit, nuts, and cookies. That's my intermittent fasting.
So I have an unhealthy diet, and I'm seeing if it actually makes my life better, and seeing if I reduce inflammation and just generally feel better about myself and things like that.
You got to have a test case to make sure this works. That's what science is about. You got to test those theories.
Absolutely. So I'm doing that by saving money at dinner time. We're going to move to a telecom peekaboo. We've got a few introduced before we start that, though. We do have a couple of really fun topics we're going to get to. And one is an update on the bet. Travis and I have conspired to find a way to make this this segment that would not die continue. So he's made me a lovely offer, and we'll bring that up in a few minutes. But don't tune out in the next 10 to 65 minutes if you don't want to miss that. But first, let's go to the whatever segment that Henry has prepared for us on the Telecom Peekaboo. All right, Peggy or Kim, I'm wondering where this was taken.
Like I'm looking in closer. What are we looking at? The one on the right or the left? Oops.
Oh, the one on the right is a close-up of the one on the left. Go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, the one on the right is a close-up of the one on the left. And this structure is it's a stage at Harriet Island in St. Paul. It's like a little public concert venue.
Is it a camera?
Yeah, it's definitely a surveillance camera. Travis knows, I guess.
And what is the little thing to the right of the camera? I should put my glasses on.
Go ahead, Travis. Alan Fitzpatrick.
That would be a ubiquity backhaul radio. Bringing.
Why are there two?
Well, so one of two things. This could be part of a series of cameras. In like a daisy chain would be my guess, or they're feeding off of two. Alan and Mike got it. I would guess there's probably another one, like in a circle, or in a loop, not a loop from network guys, but would be my guess. I'm not sure why they chose two different styles of radios, but they are definitely backhaul radios, point to point, ubiquity.
Yeah, didn't Ubiquity make a big announcement this week that they're doing a fiber to the home in a Texas city? Didn't I hear that?
Oh, did they?
I thought I did, but I feel like I read an article somewhere about
How do you have time to read articles, Kim? Where are you getting this time?
I have no life. Just let me I'm in bed reading about broadband sometimes, and I'm like, this is sad.
Travis is checking on his customers' Google reviews, and she's reading interesting articles online.
Welcome to being adults, I guess, right?
Let's be clear,
That's
Peggy.
what we do now.
Travis revealed not just that he was checking on those reviews, but that
Different ubiquity. Thank you.
that he saw a review from someone, and then a year later that person signed up for service, and Travis recognized that.
Oh yeah. No, I remember the people that are exceptionally violent and hostile on the phone. So I have two tactics with them. Let's not talk about this on the phone. Let's go meet in person. And 99.999% of the time, that solves it. Or secondarily, actually, no one's ever agreed to meet in person. Or secondarily, they disappear. And then this particular case, the guy showed up a year later after a 1-star Google review and is now a happy customer. So what do you do? Not every
Can't make Starbucks gift card.
Yeah.
Have you asked him to update his review?
He has not answered my 10 emails I've sent every single day for the last week and a half. So,
Travis, if you're going to go to his house, I'd like to come with you just to
are you going to be the heavy then or what?
No, I was going to be the one that's like trying to make peace.
Okay.
No, but Travis says that he like invites the person to a lunch. I very much assume that like this is like having seen Travis interact with people, like I feel like it's very much in that Ted Lasso, like be curious, don't be judgmental, like sort of approach of just like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, people are very strong and powerful behind their keyboard. They're not so much in person, I have found. So, so we go old school. We actually meet in person.
So that tower was cool. Alan Fitzpatrick says the site is a hub, which would make sense. Maybe they have the fiber into there or something like that. I'm guessing maybe down below.
I'm guessing they go there, and then they go to the next one, and they go to the next one. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a relatively inexpensive way to do surveillance cameras. Sure.
Especially when you have wide open line of sight, which they do there.
Oh, line of sight is very good with wireless.
We have a quick discussion point here, I think, on the supply chain. Travis, is it getting better?
Oh boy, it's getting better for those that have planned ahead. And what I mean by planning ahead now is make sure you have your orders. We're currently placing orders for 2024. I'd be curious what Peggy and Kim are doing, but this year you're done. I mean, if you have to deviate, like for instance, we use green vaults or green handholds we put in the right of way. Well,
it's very environmental of you.
Well, the inspector wanted us to move it into the sidewalk, so we needed gray. Not happening. 0% chance you can even change a color of a product now. So I would say order, and we're going to the model where in January we will have everything on the ground for the entire construction year for 23. No longer even spreading the orders out over the year. It's that bad.
So basically you're saying get that time machine, hop back 2 years maybe, and get those orders in.
Yeah, the old just in time is not working anymore.
Kim?
I was just wondering if Travis just wanted to get back in the RV and like go explore the country. Is that why he's not ordering it in time?
I would be happy to show you the weather here in Minnesota too. It's terrible. We're about a month behind in construction now.
I feel like Travis's tour of the country may involve a trailer and looking for unsecured fiber spools, conduit spools.
It could get down to that. We might head down to Utah. I heard they have a big fiber builder down there.
We've got a lot of cameras.
So far, the providers we work with they haven't raised this as an issue. I'm not saying it's not an issue. They may just not be telling us it's an issue, right? So I have not heard this yet. I am expecting it because we just did grants yesterday, and we're still working on getting grants out from paying people for last year's grants, and then we have more coming out, the end of the year, and so it's going to hit. It's going to hit.
When did people do the estimates of costs for the grants that you're now awarding?
They did them in January.
So
the grant was due. Well, the grant was due March 20th, right? The application deadline was March 20th.
Okay, so then it's not likely to be too much worse. Then they should have been able to anticipate these things,
right? Unless they decide that they're going to do these projects later than we think they are going to do them and wait longer to order it. Yeah.
The bet. I feel like I could just tease it more and go on to other topics, but I just want to I want to note that I made good on the first round of the bet, and at a local wings place in Minneapolis. And there, Travis made a generous offer that we could keep talking about this and drag it out even longer if we go double or nothing. And so we are going double or nothing, and I am going to buy a lot of wings next year and the following year, unless Gigi Sohn gets on the commission sometime soon, because apparently the FCC doesn't have any interest in raising broadband speeds until Gigi gets along to prod them. But Travis, did you have anything you wanted to share about your
So you're accepting the bet, is what you're telling me?
Yes, if at the end of February next year, the FCC's definition of broadband is still 25.3, then I owe you still more wings.
So just so people are aware, when last couple times we've ordered wings, you've eaten most of them. So this means that you're going
every time. There's not one time where you've eaten more wings than me.
This means that you're going to have more wings to order because the broadband speeds will not be modified this year in February. I'm in. Come on, let's
Peggy?
go.
No, I mean, I think that when Gigi Sohn gets confirmed, there will be a move to do that. Whether they have enough time to do it by then, but they're gonna move to do it. I think that they're a little stymied by the structure it's in now, and I think they're a little embarrassed by the speeds that they're saying is served. I hope they're embarrassed by those speeds.
So it's Peggy and me against Kim and Travis, from what I'm seeing from Kim's reaction here.
Yeah, I'm with Travis. I don't think it's going to happen. If we haven't confirmed Gigi by now, are they going to confirm Gigi?
Yes.
I mean, I want them.
I don't want to live in a world where Gigi's not confirmed, for the love of God.
But I mean, we have been going on this merry-go-round for how long now, and we haven't had any off ramp. So, yeah.
They need all 50 to be in their seats is the problem.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, but also the problem is that Chuck Schumer doesn't care about this stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and there's all kinds of dumb procedural hurdles in the Senate, so time is at a premium. And if they felt that this was a priority, they would have gotten it done, I think. And so, I'm not a big fan of his, but who cares what I think? So I put it at his feet. I'm curious if I know that Travis, you did not read what I wrote about Gigi's nomination yesterday. It hasn't been up for very long, but Kim or Peggy, did you get a chance to see my anti-Heidi Heidkamp rant?
Yes, I think I may have. It was short, right? I mean, relatively. It wasn't a treatise.
It was 800 words, I would guess.
Okay.
You were very diplomatic. I've been staying out of this. I haven't wanted to get involved in this, but screw it. Here I am. I'm putting my opinion out there, which I think is needed right now. I think if Gigi is going to get confirmed, we need a lot more voices in her corner, saying that people want her on the commission. She has been attacked relentlessly over the past few months, and it's not really called for. They're just taking clips and specific quotes of what they want their side to hear. So I think, Chris, I think your article is really well written.
Thank you.
I wonder though how many Democrats are going to fall for that, right? How many Democrats?
It just takes one, and one or two of them are wavering. That's the issue. And so this is I think a significant concern, and the question is whether the White House gets overly concerned and decides to do something on it. I mean, I don't know. I'm repeating what other people say who are more inside DC. But what pisses me off is that Heidi Heidkamp was a reasonable person, I thought, right? She seemed like someone who's from a state where she was interested in pragmatically solving problems, and now she's out there taking clips, not just out of context, but literally lying about what Gigi said. To say that Gigi saying, so here's what happened, right? The FCC gave billions of dollars to AT&T, CenturyLink, Frontier, and other companies to bring obsolete connections to rural America. Those companies barely even did that, and in some cases don't even appear to have met that low bar. And Gigi said, "This is dumb. like we just wasted a whole bunch of money on rural America. And the implication in her next line is basically, we need to build the networks of tomorrow in rural America. And Heidi Heitkamp goes around telling people that this is Gigi saying we shouldn't put any money into rural America. It's just straight up, it's just crap. And what upsets me is I feel like people in DC are like, yeah, well, like that's how the system works. You just, you become a senator, and then you sell your name and you make your buck, and then you go and then you sell it again. I don't know. But it's ridiculous. Like, I'm so sick of watching these like people who did a term or two in the Senate or like a lot of terms in the House turn around and just sell their name to like just lie to the public about this stuff.
Well, there was always a question of personal integrity, right? When do you and being a front for an organization that's not being truthful is it doesn't reflect well.
Yeah, I hope not. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to write this. Is I just felt like, I don't know, like I feel like maybe other people agree, and they're just in a position where they don't want to go out against someone who is a popular middle of the road person in a time where we need middle of the road people who have integrity. Like I just anyway, there's no reason to belabor it. But I'm just offended that that one would use this track on Gigi. Gigi takes this job seriously. And I felt like I walked a line. I don't want to insult anyone who's on the commission, but I would dare say that Gigi takes this job more seriously than anyone who's been on the commission in more than a decade. Gigi has been preparing for this and wants to do a good job, wants to make sure that our rules work, that people have resilient communications at work during emergencies and things like that. And if we don't have her on the commission, then it's our loss. And I'd like to see conservatives that also have that same level of passion, and even if they disagree with me, but have that level of like just wanting to be on the commission and do what's right, as opposed to seeing it as a stepping stone to something great, which is pretty clear is all that the conservative members of the FCC have been doing for years. So anyway, that's my rant of why no one in the FCC should listen to me, because I'm just going to sit here and badmouth all the people associated with it.
Well,
it sounds like we have this in the bag then, huh, Kim? So
I feel like we're going to win this bet. I might have to fly up there to get these wings too. I mean,
yeah, easy peasy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll just say Houston, Nashville, Keystone. You want wings, Kim? I'll hook you up. You do this show for free, so I'd love to buy you some wings in the places we're intersecting here.
Fair enough. I mean, we will be in the same places very soon.
By the way, I hear people show up at conferences at the last second. Broadband communities, a lot of folks. Kim, do you just want to spend a minute? Like, it's going to be a good event. A lot of people are going. People should check on the horrible plane fares, and then get a car and drive down to Houston.
No, I think I am one of the chairs for a Broadband Community Summit that is starting on Monday in Houston. We will all be humid and our skin will look a lot better.
No, we'll be in rooms that are 60 degrees and air conditioned, freezing to death, because that's how the hotels work.
That is true. But I think that this is going to be a great conference. I think that we have done a really good job of bringing new speakers and new interesting content and new points of view that are going to be represented at this conference. And a lot of people who are registering, we don't even know the names. And this industry is very small. And all of us really kind of know each other. So to see a lot of new entrants coming into this space, we're really excited and hope to see everybody there. I will be flying in early Sunday morning and be there until late Thursday night. So I'm excited to get into some heat for a minute. It's been a little chilly in Utah too.
Chilly.
Travis. Yeah.
Excellent. And then we will be at Mountain Connect in Keystone, Colorado in 3 weeks. MountainConnect.org, just a really terrific conference program as well. And in Nashville for Fiber Connect. I've never been to a Fiber Broadband Association meeting, but I hear those are huge and awesome. So we'll go, and maybe I'll convince Travis to come down if the weather is still dipping into the negatives in the evenings at that point in June.
Where are we going?
Nashville.
Oh, I'm in. When are we going?
June 12th, 13th, 14th, something like that. Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I love how Travis listens to the show that he is on.
He said this is a couple shows ago. I'm in for Nashville, is what he said.
No. I was looking at the $1,000 chicken wings that they serve in New York, where they dip them in gold. So I'm already coming up with a 2024 bet.
No, I
you
like going
can't win,
places that normal people eat at. That's my thing. Like,
if you can't win this bet by 2025, then there's a problem.
and that's when the
Triple-
wings will be $1,000.
Triple or nothing, we're going for next year. So after Kim and I dance on our victory on you. So
All right, Kim, we had a question, a question from a listener, which I think might be somewhat interesting for folks, and that's whether Utopia can expand into unincorporated areas. It used to be the case that you were not really able to because they are not able to issue debt. But I'm curious now that you're able to, or at least have been able to issue debt without anyone backing it, if there is a path or how you think about moving into areas that don't have an official city designation.
Speaking of counties, Roger and some of our team have been at the Utah Association of Counties conference today. So absolutely, we're looking at in unincorporated areas. I think it's just creative financing. And in the past, it's not necessarily that we couldn't get the financing. It was more of the take rate and what the home average cost per home to pass it is. But with all these counties getting so much of the federal funding and state funding and all of this, it makes it lower some of that barrier to entry that counties haven't been able to get into the game before, because you need those clusters of homes to really make the financials work. So yes, absolutely, we can go into unincorporated areas. But I mean, we're already so busy, so keep just throwing more projects our way. We really never want to sleep here at Team Utopia.
Peggy, I'm curious if your reaction to that is counties that do things. How is that working out? Because
Well,
I understand
okay, so
you have a
first off-
challenge in Maine.
Yeah, first off, in New England, counties are different, right? They're very weak, but they got a lot of money, and because they're weak, people have ignored them for years, right? Decades. And so now we're trying to have conversations with these people, and they, some of them are better than others. Let's put it that way. But we've had significant problems with trying to get them to think about using even part of their money for broadband. It's just been, the typical sort of fiber is going to be obsolete in 5 years, so we should, I don't know, do copper. I don't know, but they, it's been a tough conversation. We are continuing to have it, and we are in some counties where the commissioners just are not interested. We're just going around them, and we're not going to get the county money, but that's okay. We'll figure out something else. Because people need to get connected, right? The people who run their counties, those 3 county commissioners, shouldn't really hold people back, and we'll figure out a way around them, and we'll use other money.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't at this conference, but I heard that we had a waiting line of people who were coming to talk to us, because I am seeing a lot more counties who are sick of being told the exact same thing from the current providers, and nothing is ever changing because there's no competition in those markets. Right. There's nothing to incentivize them to change. And I think that is one of the reasons that we got into the Yellowstone deal up in Bozeman. The county commissioners are the ones who really pushed that deal through, because I think that some counties around the country are starting to take this a little more seriously. Not all of them, Peggy, I get that, but I think we are seeing some of them starting to come to the table.
Yeah, we'll have some come. We already had some come to the table. Androscoggin County gave funding to a project we just funded yesterday. Aroostook is going to be in for some stuff. Hancock is going to be in for some stuff. But we have 16 counties, but there's a bunch that are not.
So I just
areas that don't have great service, right? So Piscataquis doesn't have great service. So
I wanted to back up to something you'd said, Peggy, about these people that are saying fiber is obsolete and 5G is going to do everything, and just for people who might think that that's hyperbole. I just got a note from someone who forwarded it on to me. Actually, someone who was watching this show probably either now or if they wait a day like Peggy to Pegamus Maximus to watch it the next day. Thank you for this email. It's regarding a quote from the Heartland Institute. If people aren't familiar with the Heartland Institute, this is not Heartland Forward, the group that Walmart is we're using to encourage for better investment in rural America. place that it's systematically screwed over for decades with its pattern of investment. But nonetheless, this is the Heartland Institute, which, when it's not saying incredibly dumb things about broadband, is busy trying in the year 2022 to disprove the link between smoking and cancer, and that climate change has anything to do with man-made emissions. So this is not an organization I hold in high esteem. The quote, a piece of the quote is, "Instead, the government needs to get out of the way, let the market make the most efficient decisions, which is increasingly wireless 5G, and stop wasting hundreds of millions of our taxpayer dollars playing tech titan." In the reference to some of these grants to build out fiber optic networks. So there are people out there, and
There are lots of people out there.
and there are a lot of people that listen to those people who are just making really dumb statements.
Well, and it's, you know, when you get underneath of it, it's pretty complicated, right? Because we all know this. When they're talking about 5G, every single person, every single company that's pushing 5G is using a different definition of what 5G is. There's no national, it's not like your Wi-Fi router that says this is how you have to make it, right? It isn't, there's all kinds of people who are calling all kinds of things 5G. And so it is very confusing for people, right? Because it's not equivalent.
Right, and smart people too. Like Kara Swisher has no idea what 5G is, right? Kara Swisher is an impressive person who is like one of the best interviewers in tech, I think. There's other people as well who have like a history of this space, and they don't have any idea what 5G is. It's pretty clear.
But, as somebody who's been in this business for a long time, and I'm sure Travis knows this, told me once, everything goes to fiber. Everything.
Including people that switch from your fiber service to 5G, apparently. Right, Travis?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, somebody cheated on us last month, and they emailed in and apologized. They went off to the new the 5G plus service offered by the large company, and they came back and apologized and said they'll never cheat on us again. But, honestly, if this argument over it, though, if you're the incumbent, you should be taking this as great news, because while people are wasting their time trying to figure out if wireless is going to work or not, little hint, we figured this out like 20 years ago. But anyways, we'll just leave it at that. The rest of us can just keep building our fiber networks and taking up market share. So I think it's a great distraction. Go ahead, talk about 5G all you want and waste all your time. We'll just keep digging in fiber in the ground and hooking customers up and having happy customer satisfaction.
Although you will still have weekly conversations with your bankers about why you're not worried about 5G.
Oh, no. I've learned a thing about bankers is once you get a certain portfolio together or profile together, Kim probably has noticed this too, they stop asking. They're just happy when you're under a certain debt leverage ratio. They'll borrow you as much money as you want. So
I haven't been asked about Starlink. I haven't been asked 5G in a long time, but Starlink is the past day. I've probably had 4 conversations about Starlink.
All right.
Yeah, Starlink's great if you're in a motor home or you're on an oil rig or you're out in the, but not at home.
My team had a little bit of a blow up, a friendly blow up, because I consistently I'm not anti Elon Musk, I guess. I'm kind of like, I'm interested to see what he does. Like, I think he should shut the hell up most of the time, but like he does impressive work. And I feel like there's too few people that do the kind of work that that he did, that Steve Jobs did, which I don't even like the way a lot of the products turned out, but nonetheless, like they pursued excellence in a way that too many companies don't. So like, I'll just say that like, I am so thrilled that there is a thing called Starlink out there because it has really helped Ukraine. And frankly, when it comes down to if China does plan to invade Taiwan, Starlink is about the only thing, or else other low Earth orbit systems that are going to give Taiwan a chance, because you can bet that every single telecom line and wireless array is going to be destroyed in the first wave of attacks to make sure that nobody has any video of anything that's going on there, because I think the key lesson from Ukraine is that the information war drives the international response. So
it also, I am a Starlink customer at our location we have up in Lubeck, and it is so much better than our previous high Earth satellite system. I mean, it's not perfect, right? So I get dropped frequently when you're on Zoom calls, but it is just so much better. And for people who are out there waiting for the provider to come in and get them better service, it is a fabulous stop gap measure, right? I'm not saying it's the answer for everybody, but for a lot of people, it is the answer for now. And if the RDOF bid that's my little house is in ever happens, if that build ever happens, I'll get rid of my Starlink. But until then, I need to have service, and almost everybody I know that has Starlink has the exact same sort of strategy. It's like, it is good. It's a whole lot better than what I used to have. I'm still waiting for fiber, but for right now, this is good.
I have a question for you, Peggy. You really think that your RDOF bid's going to go through and they're actually going to finish? I didn't finish it. I didn't know that.
Well, they've been this area has been accepted for RDOF, right? So they've been approved. But the question is when they're going to build, right? They got 6 years to do it.
Who is it?
It's CCI.
Oh, okay. I mean, they seem like they're.
So they,
I mean,
there's a lot of different stuff there going on, but they've so far made good on what they're starting. I mean, they're doing more RDOF this year than they thought they were going to, in part because we got the NTIA grant that we got, which builds around their startup. So their RDOF areas on the edges of it, and this grant fills in the front of it. So that they're going to cover more of those areas. But CCI has a lot to do. They've put out a big, aggressive agenda about what they're going to build in Maine over the next year. It'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a challenge for them to get everything done that they say they're going to do, but they seem to be, they don't,
let's talk about them for a second, right? So back in the day, let's talk about them for a second. Back in the day, you were served by Verizon, right? And Verizon spent forever not putting a dime into maintenance or improvements in New England. Verizon also is doing this in Hawaii, and they sold off the Hawaii Telecom to some private equity group, I think. 2 years later, that private equity group went bankrupt, right? It was a disaster. And that might have been some other thing, but I think it was private equity. Verizon comes along and says, we want to ditch all these New England properties because they're deteriorating and we can't, and it's going to be costly to improve them. We don't want to deal with it. And this company out of North Carolina buys them. And Verizon gets a massive tax write-off, Fairpoint. Fairpoint just totally screws up the transition and is a disaster for several years, declares bankruptcy. And at what point then Consolidated comes in, right?
Yeah. But they bought, it's a distressed asset. It was distressed when Verizon sold it. Not sure Fairpoint knew exactly what they were buying in terms of how old those trucks were and all that kind of stuff. But they, also was a very tiny company that they overextended themselves by northern New England. And so then CCI bought it as a distressed asset. And then CCI got some, they've had sort of changes in management. They brought somebody in from Google, a couple people in from Google, and they got some private equity investment, and they have changed their attitude about.
Yeah, now they're partnering all over New Hampshire. I mean, they're
all over New Hampshire. They're partnering. They, one of the projects that they were working on in Stonington, which is an island off an island, and they were going to build out their DSL there, and they came back to the town and said, changing plans, we're not doing DSL anymore. We're going to build, everybody here is going to get fiber. And so they're bringing fiber with their private capital to more dense areas. And then they're coming to us, and they'll come more to the federal money to build out the areas off of those. So, it's good. We're seeing them do huge investments, and it's all fiber. So that's really good. I mean, I think the challenges for us is that some of the areas that they want to build in, we've been doing community planning for a while, and they're not interested in the whole area, right? They're interested in the telephone exchanges that are connected to each other. And that creates a bit of a problem for us that we're still trying to figure out, right? So they want to do a town that's pretty unserved, but that's been part of a larger planning grant and a planning process to think about a public utility out there. But they're not interested in the rest of the area. They're only interested in that town just because of the way their network works. And that for us it's a conundrum.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Peggy, if you and I were talking over a drink 3 years ago over wings, because I ate wings then too, I think we would have both been like, man, like there's no future for Consolidated. We got to figure out what these towns are going to do. And so, like, I just wanted to, I think it's an interesting history because Consolidated really is, changes tunes in ways that, I mean, I feel like we're watching Windstream to see how serious that changes. I think it would be shocking if Frontier is able to really do it. I feel like I'm not betting as much, on them pulling this turnaround. But there are some of these companies that are not as bad as AT&T. Like
well,
they're
TDS
doing good partnerships.
TDS, who's in 2 sort of rural western counties, has been not interested in. We've been doing community planning out there, and they just have not come to the table. They are just like, we're not. They were just like, we're not doing it. We're not coming to the table. We are fine. Everything's good. And then we, through the community planning process, we started to talk about a publicly owned broadband utility for those areas. They're pretty rural and they're pretty small. And TDS came out recently and essentially exactly said, because we are seeing the potential for competition to come into our footprint, we're going to upgrade this entire area to fiber.
Yeah, they did that in Spokane, Washington too, where Spokane was like, we should study Ammon, and TDS was like, I mean, I feel like they didn't get the period of the sentence out of their mouth before TDS was like, we're upgrading, we're on it.
Yeah, no, there's been good conversations happening. Still a little ways to go on a broadband utility, but they're like, we're upgrading everybody. And it's interesting because there are towns that they serve that are not part of that we don't have a community planning activity in, and they're not upgrading those communities. They are upgrading the communities where there's been a deep conversation about how we can fix ourselves. So it's good,
Kim's going to jump in.
No, I was just going to laugh about TDS because we signed a deal with Santa Clara, which is in southern Utah. And when we were the deal was going to get signed approved by the city council, TDS came to that meeting and was like, well, why won't you have discussions with us? Why haven't you talked to us? And the city council basically said, we've talked to you for the past 5 to 10 years and nothing has changed. Why do we think something is going to change after this meeting? And so it's interesting how some people are still believing them, but a lot of cities and counties are just not believing the garbage that's coming out of some of these guys' mouth right now.
I mean, I think the proof will be in the pudding, right? I haven't seen, they haven't published any maps. I don't know. I'm a little worried that they'll do what is normally done, which is they'll strand a bunch of people on side roads, right? So they'll do the main roads, and then the roads that go off that are pretty sparsely populated may not get anything. And that situation is really hard to fix,
This is something that was called spite lines in electrification days. The electric private companies, to try and kill co-ops or other solutions, would rush through building lines into areas just to try to strand other people and leave themselves the opportunity to potentially build, but make it uneconomical for anyone else to build. You need, I think, good governance to really try to deal with that.
Yeah, I think that we're worried about it. I want to be have an open heart about this and believe that they're going to do the right thing, but trust and verify.
Yes. So one of the things that that Peggy, you sort of mentioned, sparked my mind, and I'm curious, Travis in particular, if you're as offended by this as I am. But in the RDOF auction, a number of the providers bid at numbers that were way lower than we expected, and just didn't really understand why. For instance, Charter Spectrum had bid so low in Eastern North Carolina and so many areas in Florida and a number of other areas, and we're starting to get an answer as we see state after state looking at figuring out how to replace all the poles that Charter needs to use using other money. Charter has been working in Florida to try to convince the state to force electric ratepayers to pay for all of the costs of pole replacement, basically. And I feel like you can both be frustrated that it is unfair that the new entrant has to pay all of the costs for updating a pole or even fixing or other people's being out of compliance on poles. But I think it's really absurd to let these companies win an auction by bidding artificially low and then figuring out how to use their lobbying power to convince states to cover their costs to so that they can build what will be basically be a monopoly after that.
I guess I would ask why they don't go underground. Why even deal with the poles?
Because they want to do it as cheaply as possible, and they need to cut costs when they're talking about connecting, hundreds of thousands of homes like that.
But the challenge with these poles is, Kim, do you guys do aerial or are you guys underground?
We do a combination of both, but primarily underground.
Yeah, they put little poles underground.
Trying to replace poles, it actually, to do a city block takes longer to replace the poles on a city block than it does just to bore it. So I've never quite understood this whole art. I think people get fascinated with poles simply because that's the way everything else is done versus trying to determine if there's maybe a different way to do it. So I'm a real fan. I was real addicted to poles in the beginning too, but wasted 3 years trying to navigate that process. And going underground you sleep well at night. The network is stable. There's not a lot of drama. And I think it's just a far superior way to do it. Granted, it might be slower, but it's better in the end. And if we're just building a 3-year asset, string it up on the pole. If you're building a 100-year asset, put it in the ground.
But don't you think that some of the obstacles come into play depending on who owns the poles? Like if it's a city who owns their own power utility, and as a municipal agency, we might have, a better chance of working through that. Or if it's a telecom incumbent, or if it's the power company. I think it just really depends too on some of those obstacles of who owns the poles.
Oh yeah, and who can make a decision? I mean, you could build this wonderful network and never get an answer from anybody of being able to, even if you did all the make ready yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Try at least the areas we've ever tried. Half the people don't even know who owns the poles, or in our case, every other pole is owned by somebody else. I mean, these companies, they're no dummies. They've set up a very good defense to prevent new entrants into the system. So I don't know what it is.
If your company or if two companies are saying it's not my pole, and you're like, it's somebody's pole.
It's somebody's pole, and then you have the one-touch make ready that doesn't exist, so you have to contract. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it takes about 1 day to bore a city block in a metro area.
Whoa. One that's not sitting on granite, but yeah.
Well, no. Okay, yes. If you live in Hawaii or other areas, but for the vast majority of people, it takes about a day, and it's going to take you substantially longer to replace the poles. That's my opinion from living in the frozen upper Midwest here.
Well, it kind of goes into Salt Lake City. So Google Fiber, from what I understand, came in and put all these pole permits in for the big power company here, and then they ultimately did micro trenching through most of the city because they couldn't get the pole permits. You're right, Travis. A lot of people are just choosing not to deal with that hassle and go another route.
But here's the beauty: get them all distracted with 5G and poles, and nobody will build anything. And so if you're the incumbent, give them all these other little things to play with. Or now Starlink, which basically is just wireless pointed up. People don't quite understand the difference, and it's the same. And so I don't know. I'm just a real fan of, like Jim said here, this very limited underground last mile in NNE. Well, good. That means there's nothing in the way.
Well, except for, we're essentially a granite outcropping in the ocean. Other than that, right?
That's a problem then. Yeah. Okay.
You drive down the interstate in New England, right? And you'll come to this place where suddenly there will be tall ledges on either side of you. And that's because when they got there, they had the blast all the way through that. And that's true everywhere, right? And so you don't know as you're digging up the roads, because most of these roads in New England, they're old cart paths, right? And that we just paved. Literally, it's really great for roads.
Peggy, I'll tell you what, there's a new technology, 6G, that's going to solve all those problems for you guys out there. Just wait for it.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that Travis will find this out on his next road trip when he's trying to find fiber and handholds.
Hey, I've never been to New England before, so I don't even know. Is that what it's like? Yeah. So, no, out here where we just have dirt, it's farmland basically with people living on it. That's what I would do. My opinion may not be valid everywhere. I know when I was in Hawaii, there's no way. You have to do aerial.
Right.
But through the Midwest here, I don't know, Kim, if you can do it out there, but trenching or boring is the preferred way, in my opinion, for building a new network.
That's what we do.
Except in St. Paul, Minnesota, where Chris lives, we don't. We'll go on the poles there.
I got to warn you, I'm pretty sure there's some 5G coming. There's a lot of activity. And remember, I had those pictures of the broken up sidewalk
Yeah.
last week. They poured last week, or maybe it was even Monday. So we have our sidewalks back now after the
Okay.
whole winter of just having that temp stuff that was nasty.
Yep, that's good.
So I'm excited.
Congratulations. That,
We'll
that
see
should
some
be good
5G
for you.
coming.
That should be good for you.
It'll hold me over for, I don't know, what's it gonna be, 3 months till you get here, Travis?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. You know, we'll see if we get access to those polls.
I was curious, Peggy, since we have you from Maine, are you distributing rescue plan dollars? Where is the money coming from that you're just distributing those grants that you just announced?
So in 2020, we had a general fund bond issue that got voted on by the public. We did 8.5 of that last March, and the last 6.5 roughly yesterday, along with 10 million from it will either be, I think it's going to be capital projects fund money, because the ARPA money that we have from the state is a little more flexible than the capital projects fund money. So I think that's we're we haven't written any checks yet since we just awarded this yesterday, but we're trying to figure out the best use of that federal money for this. But it will be money from the American Rescue Plan, whether it's the state funding or whether it's the capital projects fund remains to be seen, based on a whole variety of things, right? But that's our strategy right now, and we're working very diligently. We will, to make sure that no grant is funded from two funding sources, right? So you'll either be bond funding or you'll be federal funding. Nobody's going to be both.
Do you want to comment at all about what it's been like working through this approach with the CPF? You have the situation with the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund comes out of the rescue plan. It's $10 billion, and states were able to start submitting their plans. Yeah. Some states, I understand, are getting pretty close. And I'm assuming that since you're involved, that yours is one of those. But I'm just curious how it's gone.
It's a lot of money, right? I mean,
what's Maine's allocation roughly?
It's about 128 million, but we've been giving away less than $1 million a year forever. So it's like mind-blowing amount of money. And so, the governor gave, so governors can pick who is the receiving agency, right? And so in Maine, it was the Maine Connectivity Authority, and which is a big thing, right? So because some governors have gone through, we talked about doing some governors have gone through the state, and anyway, so us having it going directly to the broadband agencies are great. It's a lot easier. But thinking about how we want to use, I mean, we've fantasized about this money, maybe not this much money, but thinking seriously about how we want to use this money to meet the challenges that we know we have in Maine, because we know our challenges are not just last mile. We have middle mile challenges. We have point of presence challenges. We have so we're trying to thinking about how we sort of reduce the cost to the end user all the way down the line, right? So not just build the last mile, but also think about how that last mile gets fed and how we can reduce the cost. We essentially have one pipe into Boston, which makes the little trucks that go down the line and dump email into your email box, makes those trucks pretty expensive to run. So we're trying to figure out how to lower that cost, and that's part of this plan. And that has taken a lot of back and forth with Treasury, right? And they've been very helpful. We have an idea. We say, what about this? And they said, well, maybe not that, but how about this? And so we have just submitted our plan and expect to continue to have this conversation with them about, how we can tweak it to best meet our needs and the needs that they've outlined in the federal guidance. There's a huge emphasis on affordability, both in our plan and in the federal thinking, which is great. It's really great. And the Capital Projects Fund, to me, is the fact that you're unserved at 100/20. That is so, we just talked about this FCC stuff, right? That is so huge, because it means that we can bring service, not just to the people who got really bad service, but to the people all the way there, right? So we don't have to, the worst thing that we can do with any of this money is to skip the people in the middle who are underserved or crappily served, and just go to the people who are really crappily served, because it doesn't make any sense to build a network that way. If you're going to build it, you should build it everybody and bring everybody up to the same level, not sort of just, switch the card on them. So the people in the end have great service and the people in the middle now have crappy service, right? We want to do everybody.
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
That's the opportunity.
Mhm.
I didn't see that coming exactly. I mean, I think a lot of us were concerned that the CPF money, that this coronavirus capital projects fund money would, because it's more flexible than the money that's coming next, that it would be used on the most remote. But it seems like really wonderful that you have that opportunity then to do the people on the way. Because of what you just said. Like, I mean, it's just super inefficient to just go to those islands. But this is what the fight's been, because the cable and telephone companies are fighting in all 50 states to try to make sure that cities, that anyone that's building cannot touch anyone that's near a cable network.
Right.
And that's absurd.
No, we've seen that. And it's, I think that our comments to the NTIA about the BEAD money is that I think they called it BEAD because nobody could remember IIJA. But anyways, is that you really need to think about how we build these networks out. We get that you said we have to serve everybody with 25 through before we can move somewhere else, but you got to have some flexibility around that because it doesn't make any sense to do it that way. It doesn't make any sense to build that way. I mean, unless everybody in an area is under 25 3, and then sure, go for it. But we got to hit everybody when you come through, or we're just wasting money.
Excess capacity. You need to build these networks with excess capacity, to not build for what is there today, but even to build while you're passing them and what could be built in the future, because you don't want to run a whole new fiber line down there for 10 new homes if you've only planned for the 10 that are there. But it's about what Peggy's saying, is building smarter and not necessarily to the exact specifications of what are outlined.
Well, we're seeing, I mean, Travis, if you remember, I don't know if this stuck with you, but one of the times that Doug and Kim were on, we talked about the line extension policy in Minnesota. That is being advanced by the Minnesota Senate still. It's still in play, is my understanding. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm kind of out of touch with what's happening on a day-to-day basis. But this idea of, let's just like put up for bid, just like people that like want a connection out in rural America and just their single home. Like, why not?
Sorry, I was on
Starlink
I was on Delta trying to figure out how to get out to Maine to eat lobster with Jim. So what was that, Chris? You were saying?
By
the way, hold on. Did we say happy birthday to Doug today?
If you want to come to Maine to have lobster with Jim, you need to go to Five Islands, where we are in the process of building a publicly owned network for Georgetown.
All right, thank you. We're coming out to see you guys here. Because,
okay. Yes. Yes. No. We absolutely want to get it.
I'm bringing Chicken Wing Mitchell with me too, so we're gonna.
I love that idea. But I am a terrible friend. I'm an awful host. Doug isn't here because he's celebrating his birthday. And so Peggy, first of all, just love that you're able to step in. But Doug, when you're watching this later, and I'm sure you are, like probably at 3 a.m. In between client calls, happy birthday, man.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets this far in the show,
No, I love the idea.
You were asking about. I thought you were supposed to be championing the state getting rid of tax on fiber and conduit. That's I thought we were supposed to be paying attention to.
I felt like I believe what I said to you was, if you made a big deal out of pledging to use your windfall from that to connect low income families, that it would be easier to help make that get legs.
Done.
And then,
let's do it. Let's do
it. Great. I really have the time to do this. Hey Kim, do you want to help me out on a project?
I have a lot of free time. It's probably within like 2 to 4 a.m. if that works for you.
And I feel like, I'm, so like I have a real history. Like I feel like there's a bunch of people who are like, wait a minute, Chris has spent 15 years railing against the idea of like doing tax incentives because it really doesn't help tax exempt entities as much. Kim, would you benefit from dropping the sales tax on conduit and in fiber? I've always been confused whether or not nonprofit, government agencies have to pay that tax.
We are a tax exempt entity. So help us at all. So you can keep the mission for Travis, but we're good over here in Utah right now.
Yeah. So that's the issue, is that like it doesn't help them out as much. But at the same time, it comes down to the same argument about whether the federal government should be taxing the broadband grants. And we
Right.
desperately need this investment. I mean, it's not like people are buying conduit for other reasons. You know, like maybe you could like have like, if you're buying conduit in excess of like 100 miles, like, you know.
But the tax,
Built
the income tax on the grants is different than a sales tax, right?
Right. No, but the point is that like this is something that we're desperately trying to find policy tools to encourage more investment. And so does it make sense to be taxing the necessary inputs to that? You know, I think we can have a good argument about it. Kim, what was your joke there? I missed it.
I said I was going to buy all this conduit to make forts. That's
some of the conduit might be appropriate for you could do like some cheap racetrack, not cheap, but you could do something Matchbox racetracks and stuff.
That's why it needs to be taxed. That's why we need.
You won't see the cars though, Chris. I mean, they're in
No,
the
I was thinking that. I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's like it's like the water park tubes where you just see
yeah,
the
yeah,
shadows.
yeah. How fun would that be? Yeah.
The Peggy was talking about what Maine is doing. I feel like, you know, we see other states where it seems like governors are going out of their way to avoid having anyone with any broadband expertise being involved in deciding how to spend this money, which seems like, I don't know, maybe is partially due to cable lobbying. You know, I hear that they're pretty influential. Kim, I don't know if you've been seeing this anywhere.
You know, I have seen a lot of broadband offices, and I think some have some great expertise in them, and I see some that I don't even think they understand what broadband is. And I don't know the reasons why people are being hired. You can always speculate, but yeah, I have had some conversations with some, and I'm like.
Well, so in Mississippi, for instance, there was a discussion about creating a commission, which would have broad representation from across Mississippi to discuss how to spend the broadband dollars. And that seemed like something that was moving. And then the governor decided that it would be a better idea, and perhaps the state legislature actually, I think, put together a bill. And they created a new department within the Department of Finance that would make all these decisions without any public oversight or anything like that. And seems like it is perhaps not a very good way to move forward if one wants to have some transparency and community input into the process. But I also feel like it's hard to tell what's happening and what's likely to result from these decisions.
I also see that a lot of people who are knowledgeable about broadband, who got into these broadband offices, are looking to leave or are leaving because they're getting so frustrated with the politics of it. They got into those offices because they wanted to do something better and improve their state. And they're just getting so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then they're just moving on. So I think that we are going to have a big problem if you don't have people who are dedicated and really want to see the advancement of broadband in their state.
If any of those people, if any of them want to do an interview, we could do like voice modulation and stuff. No, but seriously, if anyone wanted to do a real interview to talk about that, it would be interesting. I'd be down for it. There's a show, I don't know if you've heard of it. It has 500 episodes. It's called Community Broadband Bits. It's wonderful. The host he's learning, you know, give him another 500 episodes, but it'd be a fun interview, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy, what are you seeing? Like, is there other things that give you hope from the other states? Are states learning from some of these successful ones?
I think so. I mean, I think that it's, it's hard to start a broadband office in state government if you haven't had one, right? Because it's hard to start anything in state government. You got to deal with, you have these great ideas and you put a procurement out, and then the IT department comes in and says, oh, no, you can't buy that. You have to do something else, right? So the vision is sort of how you're going to create this mapping and bring people on board and what you're going to pay them hits sort of the reality of state government pretty quick, which is, one of the reasons that we went with a sort of a quasi-governmental thing, and so did Vermont, right? Because you have a lot more flexibility in how you move and how fast you can move. So I know there's a word about that.
Like, I don't know if Travis's eyes rolled back in his head, but I'm guessing that he has questions about what that means. I know I do, just in terms of the quasi-governmental.
Right. So in Maine, we use it a lot. It's called a public instrumentality of the state, We are set up in statute. We have broad authorities. We have accountability in statute for a whole variety of things, but we can't use the state procurement method, and generally, with some exceptions, don't employ state employees. So you don't have to go through the state hiring system. You don't have to go through the state purchasing system. You can set up, and most of us have, policies that are identical to the state system, but we can move a lot faster because we don't have to go through the same structure that you have to do in state government. We have to get 17 people to approve an invoice, right? We don't have to do that. So that's, there is accountability there. We have reports, honest to God, lots of reports to the legislature about how we're doing. We have, requirements about our policies, what they have to look like, what we have to say in them, that kind of stuff, all in statute. But it gives us more flexibility to run. And we have the Turnpike Authority, the Port Authority, the Finance Authority of Maine. We have a lot of them in Maine, and it's a pretty flexible tool that's very responsive. And we still have all the public meeting requirements, all that kind of stuff is still true. So,
any questions on that, Travis?
I commend Peggy for navigating that gauntlet of bureaucracy. We have one person to authorize an invoice, and that's it. So I think I'm also stuck on the fact that Kim doesn't pay sales tax on her material and gets bond financing and gets it backed by the taxpayers. Pure genius, Kim. Pure genius.
No, it often isn't backed.
The advantage of public networks.
Yeah.
The new bonds are backed by sales tax revenue, or not by sales tax revenue, but some of the earlier bonds absolutely were. But yes, we have all the best of all worlds here in Utah. We're doing everything right.
We got to check this Utah place out. It sounds like it might be something. So
I've been saying that for. I think we should do an event in Salt Lake City. Connect this. There's got to be a Connect This Coven. I don't know. We could do something like that.
I just remember
in Salt Lake City.
Well, the streets were always so wide. That's what I remember being there.
Yeah, we're in Murray, Utah, which, and for anybody knows this area, it's basically Salt Lake. And our largest city is West Valley City, which a lot of people often think is Salt Lake, but it is actually a separate city, which is going to be finished to be built out in a couple weeks. So it will be about 130,000 residents who we built out the entire city. It took us a minute, but we are a couple weeks from being done.
Is that the last one? What's the last one that's going to be of the originals?
So we have one that is, speaking of great permitting issues, our last area of the original cities will be done by the end of the year. But we had to do a complete redesign of that area. So it's taken a few months longer than it should have. I think it was supposed to be released in May, and now we're looking, probably in January, and now we're looking in December. So,
but you're still looking at this year to be finished with your footprint.
Yep. The entire
Congratulations.
division. Yep.
Nice.
That's like more than 250,000 people.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well done.
And then, Kim, one other question that had, I think it had come up also around the similar time about the unincorporated areas was that, like you said, your recent debt hasn't been backed, but the cities that you did we talked about before, Syracuse, and what was the other one?
Syracuse, Pleasant Grove, Cedar Hills. All of the new ones. West Point.
If you had a 10% take rate, the city is on the hook there for something, aren't they?
So our sister agency, there's UTOPIA, and then our sister agency UIA, which is a financing mechanism, takes the bond down. The bond is taken down with a backstop from the city, whether it be their sales tax or whatnot. But that only comes into play if we do not hit the so-called take rate that we need, which is usually about 35%. In all of those cities, we've done that model. We have far exceeded those take rates, so we've never had to lean back on the city. In case that we ever did have a shortfall, that we would go to the city, and that is a loan from the city. So we would eventually have to pay them back when we hit the desired take rates. So it is very, very much beneficial. One thing on those projects as well is when we bond for them, we bond for the take rate in which it breaks even. So UIA or UTOPIA pays for any additional installs above that 35% to connect those communities as well.
Thank you
So
for
it's
clearing that up. And then, and to be clear, then, but some of the debt that you've issued, including Montana, you did
Mhm.
not have a backstop like that,
Yes,
and that wasn't
correct.
your debt, but you were involved in the
Yes.
project.
Correct. They were selling bonds today for our newest debt that is out there, which is backed solely by the revenue from Utopia and UIA.
I keep
So,
wanting
yeah.
to get in on some of this, but then I feel like people will accuse me of having a conflict of interest. But I feel like I want to put my money where my mouth is, but I feel like it's going to only hurt me if I do that. So then I figured I'd put my money into Comcast, and so like it's the whole thing about like betting against your team, because like if you lose, at least you get a payday.
Comcast books are looking pretty good these days, so it's not a bad bet to make.
So we only have a couple minutes left. Any last questions? Any hot topics? I think we might go more into this next week when Doug joins us again, and Kim and Doug are here. We're gonna have a time change. I'll go over that when we wrap up. But Peggy, I'm curious if you have any reaction. I feel like wireless versus fiber is a hotter topic in Maine than other areas, and we just saw in the RDOF auction some of the locations from one of the top winning companies, Resound. They have decided, and this is what many of us forecast, they've decided that they can do gigabit wireless in tens of thousands of locations, something like that, and they're going to be doing that rather than fiber. They're doing some fiber to the home, and in other areas they're doing gigabit wireless, and they're significantly changing the mix of that to be more wireless and less wired.
Who said that? Sorry, Peggy. Who said that?
I don't think that's right. I mean, I think if you bid on something, that's sort of like, selling somebody, a Lincoln, whatever, Suburban, and then like trading it out for a RAV4. I don't think
the RAV4 hybrid's quite lovely.
Well, that's true. It's not quite the same size. You can't haul a trailer with it, but I just think that you can't. That's a bait and switch, and you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able, if you bid on gig and you got the bid, the FCC.
Well, no, they are saying that they're delivering it. They're saying they're delivering a gig, but they're doing so like they're going to do a gig to like, they have a gig like for this much. Where's my camera? and they were like, we're going to do like this much wireless and this much fiber. And now they're like, we're going to do this much wireless and this much fiber, but everyone's still going to get a gig.
But is that possible? I mean,
this is what I'm so confused about.
You can't get a gig with, you can't at this point. Maybe the technology will improve, but
well, like if you're on the alluvial plains of southern states, Travis, with existing wireless technology, do you have confidence in being able, without obstructions, to be able to deliver a gig to every location in areas that would be sufficiently rural at the same time?
At the same time.
Chris, I've told you 100 times I didn't go to college. Don't use those big words with me, all right?
Okay, you've been in Florida? Have you been in Louisiana and looked around?
Alluvial plains.
Alluvial plains. I could be totally wrong about that. I hope people in the chat will call me out if I just butchered that. Yeah. Anyway, if the grass is shorter than your eyes, you can see as far as possible. Like it's what it comes down to.
I don't know. I'll say this for the 100th time, and I'll challenge anybody because I ran a WISP for years. The WISP wireless is a fine stopgap, but please do not invest a substantial amount of federal money or government money into a technology that will be dead in 3 to 5 years. There is no technology out right now other than millimeter wave, which is okay if you're in the line of sight, and I'm talking like real line of sight, that you can get any reasonable throughput through. Point to point, fine, we can argue about that all day, but point to multi-point, no chance. Fiber, it is, everything else is just a distraction in my book.
Alan.
Amen.
Alan is someone that I've been wanting to have join us as one of our special guests. So I just sort of asked him, maybe we'll talk more about this with him next week. But Peggy, I think I was originally posing that question to you. You did answer it, I guess, right?
I think so.
Before Travis
I don't
jumped in.
think you should be able to.
I thought you asked
I don't
me.
think you should be. If you said you're
did.
going to build something, you should build what you said you were going to
That's
build.
right. You said that, and then my brain just totally forgot that section of time that happened. Maybe I should start eating food again.
We should get
There's something to that. There's a reason that people eat food.
Yeah. One of these weeks, Chris, we should get Jim on and really nerd out on this stuff because, yeah, 60, 80 gigahertz. They do have we use 60 gigahertz in very specific point-to-point locations, and it does work well. But people think that they're just going to sit in their house with a wireless connection and pay $20 a month. It's not happening. It'll never happen. We can just let go of the dream right now.
I mean, there is going to be a role for wireless, right? Because
Tip
but
of the spear.
point of all of this stuff, the point of all of this stuff is that I mean, we're all in the, we've had these crappy networks forever, and now everybody wants to build them out in like 2 years, and so there is a speed to market piece, but when you're doing that, you should be thinking about how in the near future, do we upgrade that so that they have a long-term quality service, right? So they have a long-term connection. And I think that's the piece that everybody has to think about is, we can do wireless for now, but what is our next step after that in 5 years or 10 years? What is the next step? And and making sure that the stuff is there to make those next steps.
Yeah. So Alan commented on this Tarana. We're actually I've heard that these guys have a real nice product. We've ordered one.
You heard it on here. We've had 2 shows where we've brought it up.
I can't remember where I heard it, but yeah,
we're not credible, so you don't bother.
Yeah, exactly. I don't believe us. So in July, we're going to actually get it up and mount it and see what it looks like, and see if it is. It's just limitation of spectrum is the biggest problem. Quite frankly,
we have a community
really wireless and lack of spectrum. Yeah. I mean, if we had a huge swaths of spectrum, wireless would do okay. But 20 megahertz channels, 10 megahertz channels, no matter how you reuse them, it isn't going to provide what people think it needs to provide. Again, I'm only in high density urban areas. In rural areas, that's a different conversation.
Alluvial or not?
Alluvial. That's my Google word of the day. So.
That's with an A. Alluvial.
Yeah. Oh, it does. That's why I can't find it.
Wonderful talking with you all. Appreciate the folks in the chat chiming in as always. Peggy, thank you so much for coming in.
We'll see you in Houston.
Yes, and other folks, I feel like most of the people who watch this show I probably know already, but if you love this show, you should come up and tell Kim about it, and then tell her to tell me. Just remember the last time that Kim was in Houston, she tried to get everyone sick.
Okay, I got COVID once at a broadband conference, and I'll never live it down. We are just hoping this doesn't have round 2.
No, I was just a friend of mine. Actually, a coworker of mine. We had a long lunch together, and then I drove him across town. And then a few hours later, he was in bed with COVID horribly. And as best I could tell, he tried his best to give me COVID and failed. So I'm feeling pretty good about my level of immunity from the having it and the boosters. So
and then you came over to my house, right, and told me after that you had been exposed too. I didn't get it either. So yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's a good 5 days there where I felt pretty confident about it. So
just say I didn't touch that pinball machine for 3 days after you touched it. So.
Disinfected. We are back next week with our 3rd Kim show in a row. And we're going to be at a new time for 2 weeks because I don't have a social life, but I have other commitments that I just cannot move around for the next 2 Thursdays. So we're going to be going at 4 Eastern time, 1 hour early for the next 2 shows. Kim and Doug will be here next week. The one after that, we're really excited about. We've got another Maine connection because Maine is the best. We have folks from Vetro coming on, as well as Lori Sherwood from Nokia now. And we're going to talk about mapping and what's going on at the FCC, what ISPs need to know, what kind of problems might develop and things like that. We're going to walk through how the new FCC maps are going to be compiled and gotchas and things like that. So that's going to be on May 12th, I believe. So that's the next 2 shows, and they're going to be the best ever. So we got some good practice in here, but we're going to really clean it up next week. So
Retro is our map of, I guess they call it map of record. That's what we use. It's a great company, really great people.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm starting to get somewhere in the industry when I remember where some people are before they went off and formed great companies. Like, I knew them from broadband communities, and then they created Vetro, and I was like, oh, it's just these guys, and it's really turned into something. They're doing good work.
They're doing great work.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I don't know if folks haven't noticed, but this is their logo. And this has also inspired my healthiness. It turns out that I'll drink less sugary water if I have cold water available, and this mug is freaking amazing. So,
Did I miss something? Are you on a health kick right now?
yeah, I'm basically to try and keep my body ready for our wing dates. I'm trying to be healthy all the other times.
Oh, okay. Well, just so you know, this is what 10,000 calories a day does to a human being. And if I get less, I get very grumpy. So, yes.
Awesome.
One more thing. Whoever stole my credit card number in Michigan, I'm gonna come find you because I did not buy 40 concert tickets yesterday. So I'm on a mission now.
It's one of our listeners.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. You think that person's watching this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of you guys stole my credit card. Actually,
Henry,
Ryan and Henry were here too the same day. See?
And they have a lot of friends. They're both way more popular than we are. Henry, are we able to go out on a short video that you had prepared? Or are we I think it looks like maybe we are. So for people who stuck around this long, we have something for them, maybe. Just gonna give it a beat. Henry may have fallen asleep.
Someone's got a screen share.
Let's see, I wonder if I can do this. No, looks like Henry's doing something. All right. I think we're gonna have a fun video next time. Fortunately, we'll just use as a tease. Next week, some amazing. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Oh,
that looks like an advertisement. I love you too.
Oh yeah, this is our bet for 24, Chris.
Oh no, okay, I got it. This is
Gold wings.
All right. I don't get people.
What's up? It's the food god. Now I know Heron has tried every single thing in the world, but are you ready to try the food god gold wings here in Ainsworth? They're crazy.
Not a good use of gold.
Gold.
What's the point?
If we get a takedown on the DMCA for including this content in our video.
No, this is the bet for 2024. We're going to Crystal lose then, and we'll go eat gold wings, right?
Oh, no. No, if I mean, I'll be depressed enough. There's no way I'm going to eat gold wings after that if like, we don't have this resolved at the FCC.
What are the odds of that just being paint, right? Basically, they dip the wings in paint and give it to you and charge you $1,000. Gross, huh?
Yeah. I can guarantee that there is no scenario in my future in which I pay $1,000 to do that. In part because I don't want to get divorced. So.
Oh, you're not that committed to this 25-3 ever getting changed. I see. Come on, go big or go home, Mr. Mitchell.
Listen, I'm not going to say that Jessica Rosenworcel knows who I am, but like if she does, I probably annoy her, and it's not going to help her change it if she knows that I'll get screwed if she doesn't.
Well, the other we never defined what it should move to, because if it moves to like 25, whatever 4, is that going to be good enough? Or
that's
what?
True.
Yeah, we really got to expand this bet. 100 100 or what?
I guess that'll be a show. That'll be a topic for the next show. Until then, it's been Peggy. Don't leave right away. We're gonna do a quick after party. Sorry, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Connect this.